Right now, let me meet her.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you have a good weekend. Probably one of the last weekends of this kind of still summer in Madrid. So take advantage of the last days, guys. Probably in October, temperatures will go down very nice. I think we will be different. We are in session 4. Well, we will talk about the multilateral organizations and, in addition, more specifically, the United Nations. You already have some speakers from the United Nations, giving them a kind of introduction and overview of the organization. Today, we will try to look at it from a different perspective. So yeah, remember, please, okay, try to be on time. Your name card, if you don't have it now, put it now, please. Okay. I really would like to see the name card so I can call you by your name. Okay.
Hi, Pablo. Good morning. Hi, Pablo. Good morning.
Out of the table now, please. Okay. We don't need battles in the class, okay, so you can take them out of the table. Thank you.
Hi, Pablo. Good morning. I'm good. Hope you're doing well too. Can you see the slides? Can you project the slides? Okay.
Okay, so good now?
Yes, it's fine now. Thank you.
Excellent, very good. Okay, so please, just make sure there are no more smartphones on the table. Okay? Thank you so much. Very good. And now for the computers, as usual, we will use them whenever we need them. For the time being, we will not need them. Okay, so you can close them now, please. Thank you for the tablets. Okay. This is the good news for you. Okay, good. Perfect. Very well. Okay. Yes. Diego, perfect. Thank you. Good job. Good. Never works. No. It's because I'm moving from screen to screen. My phone. Good. So, what are the multilateral development organizations? Can you just name them? Go ahead, just raise your hand and name 1, 2. You know any of them? You right. The United Nations, yes. OECD. AIB. NATO development. Not sure. I think the NATO has other objectives. UNESCO.
World Bank.
The World Bank, yes. What?
The CAF.
The CAF, yes.
IMF.
IMF. Yes. We could argue yes.
NDB.
Sorry?
The NDB, nearly mentioned.
Yes.
Let me see what you're.
Sorry?
The International Criminal.
ICC.
The ICC.
ICC. No, I would argue this is not a development. I would say it's a justice institution, which is great, but it's probably a different perspective. Yes, Catherine.
The UNDP.
The UNDP. Yeah, I mean, United Nations, we can look at it as a whole, or we can look at the different agencies. So yeah, you have it touching through basically many of them, okay? We have talked about the United Nations system, okay, and the different agencies and funds inside. Okay? We have talked about the multilateral development banks. We have talked about the World Bank, and then also some other regional or regional development banks. Okay, you have mentioned the OECD. Okay, European Commission again. We could argue has other goals. Development is one of them, but eventually not the most important. Okay. No one mentioned the vertical funds. Okay. Anyone knows what the vertical fund is? Yes.
She has a.
Yeah.
yeah. That's a good point. Okay, so the keyword, please.
Global Environmental Facility. I don't know what vertical means, but it's like a fund to distribute the environmental purpose used that collected from partners.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So.
Hi, Pablo.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I also want to say that the vertical funds are like they come together to sort of address like a specific issue. So for like GPE like this, theirs is education. So they put funds into promoting education.
Yeah, exactly. So basically they are usually ad hoc organization created by a number of actors. Very often it's a mix of NDBs, could be also like United Nations agencies, national donors, and also you can have like private sector. Private sector is mostly like philanthropies, like a Gates Foundation, for example. Okay? They come with a specific objective, okay? And they are we'll leave it there. We're going to have a specific session working on vertical funds. Okay, but just for you to know that they exist nowadays and that they are an actor with growing importance in the development field. Good. So who would like to work in one of these multilateral development organizations? Why? Anyone would like to? Why here and not in an NGO or a bilateral donor or in a private sector? Or yes. Your name Alejandro. You don't have a.
No, I don't use.
Just prepare the.
Well, because these organizations are the ones that focus on making the projects a reality, like on the technical side. more
Okay.
than on the financial side, or
Yes.
they're not, most of them are not highly specific.
Yeah.
So they use a lot of different areas in order to work.
Okay.
So they can use either engineers, architects,
Yeah.
economists.
Yeah.
To make the project more reality.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that applies very much to the multilateral group, I think. Yeah. So what is the difference compared to working for a BFID for the UK development or for the US development?
Well, because, like, for example, I interned at the World Bank, and then I worked at UNDP, and I saw that there was a high difference between multilateral development banks, because they mostly focus on the financing side, not on the technical ones.
Yeah.
The technical side, I think, is
It's the most
for
important.
me.
Yeah. Good. Thank you very much. Prepare your now. Someone else would like to share why would he or she would like to work in the yes, Priscilla.
For me, it's an opportunity to have a larger scale impact. Like our viewers, what it feels like is like you can only work with so many people. A lot of times they don't have so much a huge budget, so you don't have big capacity. Maybe you can work with like 100, a couple hundred people, but like you with these multilateral organizations, you can impact millions, thousands of people. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, the scale and the influence. It really does, especially with with the United Nations that applies for sure, with the multilateral development banks that also applies for sure, especially with the World Bank, and we will see this again like a less well-known actor, but the vertical functions have a massive impact in a very specific way. But excellent, good point, Priscilla. Anyone else would like to share?
Me, Kevin.
Okay, I'll go later to you. Heidi.
I personally, and this might change in the future, but I personally would want to avoid working in the private sector or with government, so this is a good alternative for that.
Yeah, discarding, so okay, your only option is the World Bank now. Okay,
NGOs.
NGOs too, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good, very well. Excellent. Kezia, please go ahead.
Okay, yes. So I think for me, it would have to be the access to deep expertise, because these projects or things that are being done are more done on like on a global scale. You get to get knowledge on how to deal with these issues using different geographical contexts. And I think that will provide a wide range of knowledge for if I wanted to also come and apply like that knowledge in my own country, because I would have seen how other countries have done that with different contexts. It can help to inform decisions that I will make. Yeah,
that's a good point. I mean, certain of these multilateral organizations, they have a deep knowledge. I think Alex was also talking about it. Okay, you have some that are eventually more focused on funding, but I would say with in all the NDBs, in the United Nations organizations, in the vertical funds for sure, okay, you have a very, very deep expertise, okay, in the issue you are dealing with. Okay, leave it there. Good. So, okay, how important are the multilateral development organizations in terms of funding? Okay, so this is a figure I showed you already the last day. Okay, we see multilateral ODA. Okay, this is again only the ODA. Remember, okay, the official development assistance. So just to remember, the official development assistance is the assistance that is coming from normally official entities from a specific list of donor countries, okay, and that complies with certain conditions. Are basically, they are either grants or they are loans with what is called concessional loans. So loans with conditions that are far better than the conditions offered by the market. So having this in mind, okay, the multilateral ODA is here, something like 26% of the ODA, okay? I think that is more. Why? Because there is an amount, okay, of aid, okay, this green part is 15%, okay, which is the so-called multi by aid. And now we get into these technicalities on development finance, okay. Basically is funding that the bilateral donors have decided how to use, okay. It's already allocated for a specific country and a specific project or a specific sector, but this bilateral donor, this country, would like very often the multilateral development bank or the UN agency, okay, to implement the project themselves. Yes, because they consider that, as we say, they have the technical expertise, they have the presence. It is easier, of course, for bilateral donors just to give to them. Okay? So if we add this amount, then when we arrive basically that the multilateral development organizations, they manage 41% of the total ODA. Okay, so as you see, this starts being like a really substantial number, a substantial figure. Good. So, what are the defining features of multilateral organizations? Okay. First of all, broad membership base. Because they are multilaterals, of course, they have a good number of members. Okay. They have, I would say, all of them. Probably all of them have members that are countries. Okay. And as we say, in some cases, also you can have members that are eventually private partners or are philanthropists, but mostly we talk about countries in most cases. Okay, they have a shared objective. So all the countries or all the members have agreed on a shared objective for this organization. Okay, there is a collective decision-making process. Okay, that means that all the members participate, okay, in the decision-making in one way or another. Okay. Do the members always have the same level of influence in a multilateral? Yes? No? Anyone would like to provide an example? Katrina, please.
I think it depends on how much money the organization. It depends on how much money they put into the organization and into the project. I think that's how much influence they have, like relatively to.
Yeah, it depends. And so every single one of these organizations has a different governance system. Okay? So, for example, if you think of the United Nations General Assembly, well, all the members have the same way, okay? But if you think of, for example, a multilateral development bank, okay? So very often their voting rights are aligned with the funding that they provide. Okay. But whatever the case, okay, there is always again a collective decision-making process. So everyone has a word to say here. Okay. They pool resources, of course, being like putting. I mean, it's not only about the financial resources of the members, but also about the, as we saw, the technical resources. Okay. And finally, okay. Neutrality and impartiality. It's not that, okay, when you were with Borja in the first session of humanitarian aid that I missed, unfortunately I was traveling, Borja told you about the humanitarian principles. Good point for him. Okay, so when we talk about neutrality and impartiality here, eventually we're not being as strict in the definition as we will do in humanitarian aid, okay? But still, okay, we are expecting these organizations, okay, not to take preference for a certain country, okay, and also to provide support based on needs, okay. In the real world, again, as we know, okay, as I already explained, okay, different countries have different weight, and of course, this is how one have an impact. But the idea is that we tend to be neutral and partial, even if we don't manage to be 100% or even 50%. So this is a figure, okay, and okay, you have already started with the political statistics course. How's it going, by the way? Good. Okay, well, so let's start showing you some figures here, guys. So, okay, this is a study, okay, done in 2013, okay, no, 2009, sorry, published in 2013, okay, where a number of specialists were we're providing a score to the performance of the different kind of development organizations. Okay. So we're gonna start here with bilateral, multilateral, okay? So the multilateral, okay, they do far better than the bilateral, okay, in most elements. First of all, more efficient, okay? Second, they help foster the national and the local institution building that we know is very important. Okay? They are clearly better in terms of reducing burden. Do you know what they mean by reducing burden here? Anyone can guess? No. So, okay, this is, we can talk about it, but you know, very often when you have a bilateral donor providing support to a country, okay, the bilateral donor can decide whether to provide the funding to say to the budget of the country, okay? And then basically the country administration will manage it, okay? Or you can decide to create some kind of parallel system, okay, that will provide the donor with a better oversight of how the funding is being used. Okay. But of course, the counterpart of this is that this is a big burden for administration because they have their normal budgeting and a financial management process, plus, okay, the different processes or systems that different bilateral donors are asking them to implement. So it can become a big burden for the public administration of the okay? So the multilaterals are really good at basically creating this problem. Okay. Learning. Yeah. Okay. So why do you think that multilateral agencies perform better than bilateral agencies? The main Ana, please. Anuncia.
So you have like more perspective by having broader members. You don't get into like one side of the kind of picture, but you get a more holistic approach. And it goes with technical capabilities and perspective. So I think it's might be harder to reach a consensus, but it gives you a bigger reach.
Okay. So can you develop what you mean by holistic approach?
So what I think is that when it comes to bilateral, you're always seeing like the organization seeing one part of the problem. Right? When you have multilateral, you get to see the other perspectives of the problems, like kind of related with the impartiality, seeing the whole thing, not just the side that one part might be interested in doing.
Yeah. Okay. So you mean that bringing different. As the multilateral organizations have a number of member countries, they probably provide different perspectives on how to see the problem. And knowing that, of course, when you have an multilateral organization, you can expect to have people also from more nationalities.
More nationalities, more perspective, more technical capabilities.
Yeah. That's good because if you think of the technical capabilities, you have some bilateral donors that are exceptional, like for example, the German aid, they're really good technical issues, in a very, they get narrow, they have to really specialize in some issues, and they're very good, But this element of different perspectives, I think is very interesting. Thank you very much. Anyone would like to add something here? Gupta, please. Is it Gupta or Mayak?
Anything.
It's easy to remember. Okay.
I think multilateral organization also push for economic reforms rather than bilateral, like you ease on tax policies. Like I think like free trade agreement between countries also fall into the bilateral aid some way.
Yeah.
So, but with multilateral, you you open up the economy, so you drive it. And your aid is very much focused, like what Anna was already mentioning. It's very specific, need-based kind of thing. And you have like conditional financing. I hope like that's why it is more efficient and like reducing the burden. Like better help in debt management of the country.
Yeah, reduce the burden, that's clear, a big wheel. You were mentioning also the fact that they're not focused in
Like specific need based, like country asks for that, like bilateral, multilateral won't go and say like, we have this nice financial policy that we would like to take in, like
Yeah.
not selling like banks. But when a country asks for, they would share their expertise and then very specific need based, they come out with like, I would say the funding.
Yeah. Good. I think it really depends on the donor, you know. If you think of bilateral donors, they are, I think you're right. In fact. I think, you know, many of them will say, oh, we are needs-based, you know, we're really listening, you know, to our counterpart, you know, but the reality is that very often they come with some kind of preconceived ideas. But I will argue that, for example, if we think of MDBs, in the multilateral development banks, that probably also happens a lot, I think, because there is like kind of, you know, you develop a strategy, you know, like you set up some global priorities, and then, you know, you go to the country and you say, oh, I'm here to listen to you. By the way, these are our priorities, you know. So if you know where to, you know, put the X, you know, eventually you will get the money, you know. So it's always tricky, but it's a good point. I think it's true. It's true, but again, it is not black or white. Good. Yes.
I have a question like, why there are big differences between the multilateral bank and the UN system, consider the efficiency and the reducing boundary.
Yeah.
And also one question like, how the multilateral bank keep that efficiency? Because for my understanding, like it gives funds for the country they need. But like I don't understand like if they're also like a special agency like UN, like for example UNDP or UN IAO, something like that, to execute their like project or program.
Yeah,
that's my question.
Okay, a good question. Allow me to delay the answer because we're going to devote the last part of the class to that, to the United Nations and why there is this big difference. It's a very good point. Good. Okay, very well. So, anyone would like to add some other element? Yes, Angie, please.
I was hoping you could explain what bilateral organizations are like, or what a certain example.
Sure. Bilateral are the agency of basically states. So that would be like the Chinese Development Agency or the Spanish Development Agency or the US Development Agency, etc. That's it. Alex.
This is more a question than because the fact that multilateral organizations have more partners help with the performance in comparison to the bilaterals, because like since multilaterals have like they deal with experts from all the countries mostly, they can get the expertise or the know-how from all the different organizations, and that would make it more efficient somehow.
Indeed. The expertise and the perspective, that's what Anna was saying before at the very beginning. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good. So yeah, I think you are touching here the most important point. There is eventually one more, and it's the fact that it's the issue of neutrality and impartiality. But again, in the sense that for the bilateral agencies, there is always this, we talked about it on Friday, there is this balance between trying to do good, and trying to support the geopolitical or financial economic interest of your country. And at the end of the day, the people who run these agencies, they are requested to do a good job in terms of helping developing countries, but at the same time they are also being asked basically to kind of help also the helper, help a little bit the companies, in the country eventually if there is a country which is involved in geopolitical competition or other interests. Now, for example, Spain. Who from here is from Spain? Okay, so that's gonna sound weird for you guys, but Why, question hopefully for the Spaniards, but anyone can answer, okay? Why a substantial percentage of the Spanish cooperation for development is going for Mauritania?
Can you repeat the last?
Mauritania. Basically West Africa, Northwest Africa. I mean, map of the world here. So it will be easy to see. Perhaps if I show it, you will realize better. So large part of the Spanish aid is going to this region. To this region. Yes, so to this region. Why?
I don't know the answer, but does it have anything to do with the Western Sahara?
Oh, that's interesting. That's a good point. It could be some years ago, not anymore. Spain has changed its official position regarding the Western Sahara, but it could have been some years ago, not anymore. There's something much more critical for Spain now. Julia.
Not from Spain, but maybe used to migration routes.
Yeah, exactly. Migration routes.
To the Canary Islands?
Sorry?
Does it have something to do with the Canary Islands and the migration crisis that's happening in there?
Exactly. So we have been in Spain. We have been receiving like big influx of migrants, okay, coming from this region to the Canary Islands. Okay? And one of the tools that the Spanish government is used to try to have some control on these flows is to negotiate bilateral agreement with the countries that where these flows originate, okay, to provide more development cooperation to help the country, but also, of course, it's like there are two sides. Yeah, let's say the positive, the optimistic perspective will be say we would like this country to develop. Okay, so like these migrants will not come. Okay, the realistic perspective is we want to provide money to the government. In exchange, the government will commit to stop, to reduce the migration flows. Okay? So again, this is aid being used in a clearly geopolitical or political interest of the country. Yes, Priscilla.
But what I've heard is that a lot of migrants also come from different parts of Africa, but they travel through those countries. So how do they know that those migrants are coming from those areas in particular?
Well, I mean, it's very well known where the boats are coming from. So even if the migration routes originate in other countries or partially, okay, at the end that's the place where they take the boats. So that's kind of the choke point where basically, it's easier to stop them. That's the logic. So the thing is that I would argue that multilateral organizations, they are more efficient because they do not have. Yes, Hannah.
I'm just thinking about it now. Like I was a bit confused already with the multilateral, that they are more efficient, because also if you look at the EU, I know like the Commission, for instance, DG Impact, they do the development work for the EU, but nothing can be done without the Council, for instance. So, and in the Council, it's only nation states. So there, I mean, also looking at Hungary, like how many times it's blocked, like, or in the UN, the same thing.
Yeah, this is a good point. But the thing is that we have let's say, in the EU, for example, okay, of course, the final decision makers are the member countries still through the Council, okay? But at the end, first of all, the Council, they need to make agreements, okay, find balance between the interests of different countries. And that's already like kind of, there will be some countries that are more focusing, okay, we need to stop migration, while others are saying we need to kind of keep up with our commitment with human rights, so you can find a balance. But also the things that the council is very far from the people who are finally making the decisions on specific projects. There is like a big good number of layers of bureaucracy behind. So these people who are making the decisions, they are quite protected. Let's say basically the council is going to approve very generic guidelines, okay? And then the people who are implementing the projects or even defining the strategies, they need to follow these guidelines, but they have a lot of leeway.
Yeah.
While in Spain, I mean, the Spanish embassy in Mauritania will get the call from the prime minister's office and said, okay, you need to do something about it. It's as direct as this, basically. Good. Okay, so just to clarify, guys, we are going to have one specific lesson or two, one on LDBs, one specific session on vertical funds. So you'll have more time to talk about it. Okay? But today we're going to move to the UN. Okay? So for the UN, okay, you already know the three purposes of the United Nations. Okay, first of all, to maintain international peace and security. Okay? Second, to develop friendly relationship among nations based on principle of equality. Okay? And third, to achieve international cooperation, okay, solving international problems. And this is where international driven cooperation falls. Okay, we are basically here. So if you think of the role of the United Nations promoting international development, okay? What are the key responsibilities? What are the levers that they have basically to foster international development? The lever, what are the responsibilities that they have? Different.
Make sure countries adhere to human rights.
Make sure. Yes, I mean, they cannot make sure, but they can advocate, let's say. No? So advocacy. Okay? Advocacy for human rights, and we could argue is also advocacy for other issues related to international development. For example, they can advocate for funding, for example, or for their agencies. Okay? Or they can advocate for example, bilateral donors doing a better job in terms of better being more neutral. They can advocate for more efficient policies of international development. You have, of course, a broad range of advocacy themes where the UN is going to be very much involved. Yes. Crystal.
Another role that I learned from the video that we started to watch was that they reduce the threat of war, or at least if there is war, they try to keep it in a regional space that it doesn't spread.
Yeah. This is very much linked to the first purpose, like the international peace and security, okay? Through the Security Council and through the advocacy role very often of the key people in the UN. But focusing in international development, okay, we have talked about advocacy. Now, Kate.
Isn't it like what the EU works in the same ways? Just like Hannah said, that different UN bodies, they just create generic guidelines. They just come to an agreement, and then the decision is up to member states, basically. Do they work in the same ways? So like they have responsibilities, but they're not binding, as long as it's Security Council. So, well, the responsibilities of the organization, once again, they're spread across the nations who are member states to the UN. Isn't it like the same thing?
It's not really like this. I mean, we can think of the role of the agencies of the UN, okay? The agencies have, I would say, a lot of leverage, a lot of autonomy. say, unless they touch a very specific issue, for example, like Gaza, eventually Gaza. But even for Gaza, think about it. I mean, I think really it's important to see to what extent the United Nations and especially the Secretary General Guterres has been very vocal, okay, about the situation in Gaza, despite the fact that he has been totally criticized by the US and Israel and other countries. No? So they have this leeway, they have this autonomy. That's as we say, that's the great thing of being a multi organization and especially being the United Nations. Yes, Juliana.
I don't know if they are achieving it, but I think the main objective also was to guarantee every part has like a voice in the United Nations. I mean like even the states that are receiving the international help and the states that are giving it, like a mechanism in order to everyone to participate.
Yeah, definitely. And this is an interesting point. Okay, the next session we will dedicate 100% to a case study, topical case, because I really want you to touch the reality of this and not leave you that track of it. But this is an interesting point. It says that the United Nations, being a multilateral organization, where all the countries in the world are part of it, happens, in fact, is that it is also quite challenging for a UN agency to kind of be clearly against the host country. For example, if you are the World Health Organization working in the Central African Republic, okay, they're providing support. Okay, eventually you see other things that don't work well. You will have to change, you will do some advocacy, eventually silent advocacy, but it's very hard for the United Nations to say, oh, this is pretty wrong and this is corruption and you should change. So it's a good advantage, yeah, I would say. It's my perception working with Doctors Without Borders in different countries, seeing like, things not really well done, and the World Organizations say, we know it, but we cannot say anything about it.
I think nowadays it's been challenging for the UN to gain that trust. Like I remember in that event we went of the Summit of the Future that someone mentioned that the UN is not longer being invited to most of the conversations regarding developmental challenge right now.
Yeah. We'll talk about it now. Yeah.
Jill.
Jill, yes. Jill, please.
Another key responsibility is maybe authorization.
Authorization. Can you elaborate, please?
Like they can authorize force to maintain peace, for instance.
Yeah. Yes. But this is again very much focused in, that will be part of the National Peace and Security and the DPKO, the Department of Peacekeeping Operations that have a critical role in maintaining world peace. Okay, good. So let me help you through these guys. Okay. So what are the key responsibilities? First of all, okay, the UN has been really good and really successful at setting the global development agenda. Okay, if you think about it, okay, the MDGs. I mean, everyone now talks about the SDGs. Almost every single thing that we've done in the public sector and non-profit sector is linked to the SDGs. This is an amazing success in terms of setting the agenda. Just think about it. Okay? It's not easy, just to put everyone basically in line on this. Yes, Carolina.
In that line, I think that more than set the development agenda could be to create consensus about like the main themes in what all countries need to focus beyond their own agenda, because each country like arrives with their agenda and each country believes that their problems are like the most important, but the UN is the place where, okay, this is happening in all of these countries, so we all need to work in this.
Yeah, it's a good point. I will say it is a mix of both. Okay. Of course, when the talks about the SDGs started, the UNDP had a very clear idea of what they want. It's a reality.
So it was a directed conversation.
Again, of course, the different countries have a lot of influence, and there is a lot of negotiation, but you need someone to come with an idea. First, with a kind of broad framework or where you wanna go, otherwise this will be crazy, you know? So, and then eventually the UNDP, I don't know how it was, but eventually the UNDP had like, I don't know, had to think of 20 goals, and eventually they had to add 10 because different member countries, organizations wanted to add them. But again, they have a very important role in shaping the final shape, sorry, for the petition, no, of the SDGs. But it is not, okay, Alex, please.
I didn't want to interrupt.
No, come on, go ahead.
Like one quote that they always said was to leave no one behind through the SDG. So like, that's like their main objective.
Yeah.
To leave no one behind.
I mean, leave no one behind. I mean, it's a very general statement. You know, that everyone can agree on that. So that's good. I think it's good as a kind of statement where everyone feels comfortable with it. It doesn't necessarily provide a very clear guidance. It's good. It's good as it is. So, but not only about MDGs or SDGs, but also we have different agencies in the UN that are also setting the agenda in terms of their field of interest. For example, have you heard about the Human Development Reports?
Mhm.
Yes. So the Human Development Reports is very interesting because this concept of human development, okay, came originally from
Amartya Sen.
Amartya Sen. Okay, Amartya Sen. Okay. Through another Pakistani economist working in the UNDP, basically this concept was basically evolved, okay, into the current concept of human development. Okay? And it is the UNDP, basically, with all their institutional, capacity that has put it into the development agenda as, the kind of key, I would say, the key framework for understanding development for the last 25 years. So it's important to understand, first of all, again, the importance of the scholars or the thinkers, okay, because the ideas are coming from them at the end. So who came with this idea, basically, and other scholars, even. And then it's important to understand this link between the scholars and institutions that can basically provide, set up this concept in the agenda. So this is very important. Okay, we need to keep in mind. Okay, but it's not only that, guys. Okay, and this is a second issue, of course. Okay, is providing clinical assistance and capacity building. Okay, this is very much the work, for example, of the UNDP. Okay, so UNDP, the WHO, the ILO, they have these teams in different countries that are providing technical support to the governments. Direct provision of services. And this is really important, guys, also. If you really like to get big close to the field, and doing that kind of challenging work, like agencies like the World Food Program, we'll talk about them in the next session, okay? Or agencies like UNHCR, UNICEF, ECHO. Okay? These organizations, they are providing direct support to the population, especially in times of crisis. Okay? And the role is extremely important. Okay? For example, UNICEF, UNHCR, and especially now the World Food Program, they have a phenomenal capacity to provide support, especially the World Food Program, I would say. And finally, okay, as we said at the very beginning, okay, advocacy and raising awareness, and we talk about the example of our current Secretary General Guterres and for example, the advocacy role that he's doing in Gaza, for example. So here you have a big chart with the United Nations system. For your interest, I just kind of highlighted those that are related to development. Okay, you will have it in the slides. Let's read. Okay. Let me quickly talk about the UNDP. Okay. It's the central actor of development in the UN system. Okay? And normally, the head of UNDP in a country is also like kind of the United Nations kind of representative in the country very often. Okay? And he has the role of coordinating the job of the different agencies also. Even if it's not always easy because agencies also want to keep their autonomy. And then I just share here with you also a framework which is based in the current UNDP strategy, again, focusing these 6 elements of fighting against poverty and inequality, improving governance, resilience to crisis, environment, energy, and gender equality. And these are the 3 big themes where the UNDP is working nowadays. So, coming back to the question that Jason was making here, okay? So, we look at the UN. Here is other, but basically it's mostly the UN system here, okay? If we look at the rankings, okay, in fact, they are quite unsatisfactory. Okay, they are the lowest in efficiency, okay, they are okay in terms of fostering institutions, okay, but not very that good. They are the worst in reducing burden, okay, and they are not really good also in terms of transparency. So, this now, I'm going to ask you to do some work now, guys, okay? So, we're going to get in groups of 3 or 4 people, okay, and work on these questions. Okay, we're going to get 3 key challenges that the UN is facing in the realm of international development, okay, and propose realistic solutions to overcome it. Okay? So work on this, prepare a slide of one slide presentation, okay, and get ready to send it. Okay, you can use computers, feel free to use a tool to work.
But there's agencies that like the same objective. Yeah, let me translate that for approval. One of the hardest proposals. Because you basically have to rearrange not the whole thing, but like the mindset of people have been working with it for years. Like I don't know.
Also, like,
yeah, like What happens if there are allowing of like yeah, like a permanent rule and a bit of power. They should rotate. That is their problem. I met with UNICEF and those programmers finding funding for a program. And they would bring me like the free for my program here, I think yeah, so maybe I needed like the approval of the regional director and then of the other director and then the other instructor. Yeah, like they should be part of the team in charge. Like actually the implementation of the thing. You're like the body that's really worthy of whatever. You know, like yeah, or Or a country that is focused on So we have like I think that everyone's objective and then the ones that are autonomous either they are taking up private and they believe we have to add money but it's easier to create more because we're adding another one maybe they were created so like now they are going through the same. So I don't know if for example like for example when you're maybe it's like specialized but
Yeah.
There are 10 non-German universities that have there are 10
Yeah, let's see. I thought we guys all
we need to continue thinking. We need to continue thinking. Like so, okay, here they after the year begin or like we prioritize the expenditures in projects that have synergy with others, like those that are discussing like several entities at the same time, so we can make sure that we are targeting more like high level decision.
also my smelling
the UN are studying international relations, but in your daily basis, you never hear about what's the UN doing, so in promoting the UN in those channels that everyone is accessing, they should use social networks or something like that. That's people are reading and seeing and everything. Make sure that they about the UN nation and also children in Nigeria by doing this, showing more what they are actually doing. It's really hard. You don't see.
So come up with
Everyone. So as we saw before on the slides, one big challenge or one very negatively rated topic was efficiency.
Sorry, you don't close computers now, it's okay.
One point that was rated quite bad was the efficiency of the UN. And I think many of us are very aware that there are a lot of bureaucratics and hierarchy and very inefficient and outdated processes, which is also something that many people within the UN complain about. And we would suggest that they take the time to look into very large-scale private sector organizations to find ways to work much more dynamic, efficient, reduce bureaucracy, reduce hierarchy, and simply find ways to work faster and easier. At the moment, they say for a normal employee associate, around 40 to 60% of the workload is just bureaucratical documents and stuff like that. So this is a huge amount of money, time, and resources, which of course makes everything very inefficient. And this could be tackled actually quite easily or in a couple of years if they would start doing this and find ways to make it better, which is actually possible and nowadays what.
Okay, so the second problem that we identified was the lack of transparency. Sometimes the UN, it's very hard for people to know exactly what they're doing or how they're helping in a specific country in a specific circumstance. So what we proposed was that the UN could have some type of PR or public communications team where they're dedicated to just that, to giving out the information about what they're doing. Even and it has to be neutral. So even when the UN is, the situation isn't great, also, showing that so that people have trust in what the public communications team is giving out or telling people.
Perfect. And then the last one, we were inspired by the previous graph regarding reducing burden. So obviously there's a lot of administration that goes into that. So we thought there could be we were running out of time, but we thought there could be a simple way of reducing this by the country simply, instead of having to write a full-on impact report and taking all their time doing that, there could be something as simple as a checklist that they do to reduce time. But in order for them not to be using the money wrong and them just to get away with just doing the checklist, they could be random spot checks on certain of them where the UN goes in and checks that they're actually doing it properly to ensure that there's no.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Or maybe just something to add regarding the transparency. We know that of course the UN has communication on social media, on the website, and so on, but it is just a very small part of all the things they're doing. It's very on focus on what is very relevant in the media at the moment, and it's never showing the full picture or all the things they're doing. So that's why it's functioning almost like a library or something where people really all the updates. So just like to make sure when we talk about social media or public communication, this is an existing thing. It's not a reinventing the wheel. New thing, they are not doing it. They're just not doing it to the right extent.
Excellent. And one more point to our last statement, please, because we found that the biggest, if I may say so, the biggest problem of the roles that you play in promoting global international development might be the lack of funding. But to press the member states to give more money seems like go beyond UN's ability. So we propose that maybe we can reduce some burden to use the money at hand more efficiently.
Good, very well. Thank you so much. It's okay. Yeah, other people would like to add some issues or to in terms of other problems and solutions, or also like additional solutions to the problems they have identified.
So I really like what you guys suggested regarding transparency. And like, for example, like I donate to UNICEF, for example, and I get like at the end of the year like a little pamphlet that says like, oh, these are the causes that we're doing, but like something to people who are already donating, something that would like help confidence is maybe like instead of just saying like, oh, this is what we're going to work with, like give like concrete examples of like this last year with work funds, we did this, kind of like a little impact report, and at least like not just like with the social media, but like with the communications that go out as well.
That's a good point. I think in terms of communication, I mean, if we of transparency, you were saying we talk about the agencies that are providing direct services, like UNICEF or World Food Program or UNSCR. They definitely can look at some NGOs that are really, really good at basically justifying how they are using the money. So like Oxfam or MSF or others, new organizations in the US that are showing up in the last years. We'll talk about them also that are really good at that. I think that one of the challenges in terms of bureaucracy, one of the challenges of the UN is that many of the people who work at the UN, they are public servants, for the good and for the bad. In the sense that for the good, in the sense that, of course, that gives them some more autonomy. Okay, for the bad, in the sense that when you don't want to work, there is not so much incentive to work. That's the reality. And I would say another challenge I have seen sometimes is that because of the nature of the United Nations, we're expecting to have a balance basically between, say, the total population in the world and the kind of a ratio between the total population in the world and the percentage of people from different countries that you have in the UN. Some countries have, and very often the countries propose people to the UN. Some countries have quite good selection processes, others have processes that are eventually corrupt eventually. So this is also adding a layer of complexity. And it's true that it is not easy to solve because it's very much embedded into the identity and the reality of the organization. But on the other hand, I would like again here, and we could talk about more issues that some of you have identified. That was very, very good. This is a very good point. Okay, I would like to end kind of rompiendo una lanza, like defending the critical role of the United Nations in international development. Okay, especially nowadays, in a time where there is more and more geopolitical competition, when there is more and more war, where you have organizations that are losing legitimacy because they are identified as taking sides basically in some countries. Okay, the United Nations is clearly the organization that people can criticize it, but it's clear organization that is representing the interests of the whole population in the world. It is really critical. When in this case Antonio Guterres talks, I think some people wouldn't like what he says, but few people will believe that he's talking on behalf of some countries and not on others. Really, he's talking on what he considers is on behalf of the interests of my country. And this is quite unique. I think we could argue that there is no other organization that has this kind of legitimacy. So despite all the problems, okay, it's really a great place to be and a great place to bet on, for the future. Good, thank you so much. Good, so we're almost done for today. Okay. So on Wednesday we will have a case study on the workflow program. Okay, favorite to the agencies, by the way. Okay. So as usual, the readings will be focused will be basically the case study. Okay, I will send to you so you can read it. Okay. We'll have as usual back to the low stakes test. Okay, and then we'll spend the whole session working on the case study. Okay. Questions, comments?
One question regarding the tests. So they count towards your participation?
No, they. Okay, I will repeat one day again, but the total value, I think, I don't remember now. The first day, I think, is 15 or 20% of the final grade, in addition to the participation.
So if
I will look for it. It's not easy, but okay, I will tell you. It's 15%. Final grade.
the test.
The quiz, yeah. Okay, 15%.
Even if you come to class and you fail more than 2, then
So the way it comes is that I'm gonna grade it, okay? Basically, for each one of you, okay, I will take all the quizzes you have done, the two that are the worst, either because you didn't come or because you have a low grade. I will not count on them. I will delete them. I will make the average with the others. Okay. In this way, again, one day you can come, or one day for whatever reason you cannot do your study. It's okay. It's not gonna have an impact. Okay. Is it clear? Yes. Good. Okay. See you in a couple of days.
No, it doesn't happen. Human rights. And it's still Dorothy that
I hate to say it, but
If I decided to go, then I pass kind of.
I'm
I've sent the message.
I would love to say that you have a place to be. Teach me negative, see what we have right now.
When you come to declare that you live in Spain, they give you a paper. That's hard.
Para ayuden una mezcla de
That's very Mexican.
You can go there first.
First, I go and deal with
Yeah, I just.